Hello, all. How's everyone doing tonight? Let me turn this on. Good evening, everybody. Hopefully, you can all hear me. I'm hoping that is the case. How is everyone? At least somebody tell me they can hear me. Oh, I know. I know. I can't tell if anybody can hear me either. So, how is everybody? I see there's 25 happy veterans in the crowd here. Sound is good. All right. Awesome. 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 Okay then. Fantastic, AA Ron. Hello. Hello, everyone. So tonight I was thinking about talking a little bit, just going into ankle fractures, huh, Thomas? Okay. I was going to talk about secondary conditions for like the first 30 minutes. And I was going to talk about the evidence needed in order to kind of present a secondary theory. Okay. And it was going to be, or it is going to be something that's a little bit off the cuff. So we will reference the manual um, here, there, and everywhere. But for the most part, it's just going to be me talking. So what I kind of find persuasive in a secondary type situation. Okay. I know, Luna. I know. Sorry, my dog is just grunting at me. So I'm not going to be looking at the comments too much here, but I might pick one out every once in a while. But technically, whenever you file a secondary theory for service connection, I find these to be some of the easiest claims to potentially win because the audience, wow, Dan, geez, okay, we're starting out strong. So, Dan, wow, amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wow, more than you know. Thank you. So, um, and you guys do that and you distract me. All right. So going into the secondary theory, the reason why I think that there's some of the easiest ones to win, and Jeff Russell out of the gate too. The reason why I think that there's some of the easiest ones to win is because you're having, and I've said this in another video, you're having the examiner actually kind of review in the here and now. And examiners like to do that. They don't like to reach back in time 30 years and try to hypothesize whether or not something could be caused by something else. Okay. Now, so in that respect, secondary theories for service connection are, you know, they're a strong theory to lead with. Okay, like if you're looking at something to be service connected, you know how I talked about in some of the videos about how there's like, direct theory, secondary theory, aggravation. There's 1151. There's presumptive. There's a whole bunch of things, right? And um, hmm, yeah, that's a good question. So the reason why the secondary to me is powerful is because a lot of the times when you're dealing in the here and now, it's easier to prove this stuff. Okay. Because you can show in real time that it's happening. One of the strongest secondary theories, in my opinion, is, like somatic symptom disorder. So mental health secondary to, let's say, chronic pain from service connected disabilities. That on its face might seem like it's a very hard claim to prove. Uh, you know, and typically the way that a lot of raters review it, you'll have two different, actually, let me go back here. You'll have two different assessments periods. So you'll have the examiner who will assess your condition based upon the evidence that you submit. So when you're presenting a claim based upon, and I'm just going to give like a kind of an initial example. Thank you, Tony. So if you were to do mental health secondary to chronic pain, like what would I want to see? Like if I was filing this claim for myself, well, number one, I'd want to see at least 3 doctor visits, right? Showing that this is number one, a current complaint, and number two, that you are reporting to the doctor what you think could be causing your depression. Basically, I know that seems like a stupid thing, but you want to actually do that so that way you keep the examiner from hypothesizing or letting their mind wander, right? So if you believe like, hey, look, I have depression because, I can't use my shoulders anymore. My shoulders are shot, I can't reach above shoulder level. And, my job, I'll just give a personal story on that. And thank you also, Emil. Sorry. So, personal story. Radiology tech in the military, right? Shoulders destroyed. Okay. And because my shoulders were destroyed, it was so painful to have to reach up to grab the tube, the x-ray tube and move it around, right? In order to position it so I could take x-rays like chest x-rays or something like that. It's a big thing on that's attached to the ceiling that you kind of move around and you kind of articulate. Well, because the majority of my job was working above shoulder level, it caused me to have severe pain all the time. So I was able to, with very limited, you know, evidence, I went to my doctor a couple times and said, "Hey, look, doc, this is killing me. Can I get some pain meds for my shoulders? Because it hurts all the time. It hurts, like it doesn't just hurt when I'm working. It hurts after I'm working. It hurts whenever I go home. It hurts, all the time. I had steroid injections. I had the whole thing. And so going to the examiner with that evidence from my doctor, right? Having a few doctor's visits under my belt showing that number one, yes, I'm reporting the pain is the cause of it. And I'm giving them examples. Hey, look, it makes me depressed because I can't pick my kids up, like it makes me depressed because I can't do the things that I want to do. I can't throw a ball with my kid, like I can't, giving mental health is not like a physical examination where they can grab your elbow and they can kind of pull on it and they can see how disabled it is. So for like mental health conditions, whenever you're talking about secondary, it's better to provide them with examples. If you don't provide them with examples, they have no way to kind of fact find or imagine what it is that you're talking about, right? And you kind of limit your choices with that. So in terms of the secondary theory, you know, for chronic pain, that's the kind of evidence that I, personally take into an examination with me, but it's also something that I like to see whenever, rating a claim. Because when you're rating a claim, you want to make sure that the evidence lines up and matches up. Or let's say that you go to the examination and the examiner actually, uh, sh- lowballs you, right? And they don't check all the boxes. Now, if I go back and you've provided me with statements reporting, like, hey, look, I have chronic pain. It prevents me from doing this, this, and this. This is how I feel about it. This is what this manifests like. And you also have evidence, and I see that not all the evidence is used. Well, if the examiner didn't check the box, I can sometimes use that evidence that you've reported to your doctor within the last year. I can actually check boxes on that. Or if I don't feel comfortable doing that, I can defer it back to the examiner and go, "Hey, look, did you take into account the medical record right here on this date where it says that he has this particular symptom on, quite frequently, like he has, I don't know, say panic attacks whenever he, did you account for the panic attacks because he, when he goes to work, he's afraid he's going to cause himself even more pain, or he guards it all the time, or whatever, however that manifests." But those are the things that, like, from the first evaluation with the doctor, it helps you immensely. Okay. If you are going, before you file a claim, you go to your primary care doctor and you start talking about your disability. And I know I'm rambling. Actually, let's put the right thing up here. But another thing that I like to do, or that I like to see whenever, we're going before the doctors and we're doing all those things, we're talking about the symptoms. We're talking about, how it's impacting you. I like to see that. Hold on just a second. Yeah. Sorry. Dog's staring at me. But it's that kind of evidence where you're kind of directing, you know, you're you're prefacing your claim with solid evidence. If you go into a claim blind, like you just say, today I'm filing for, you know, sleep apnea, and you haven't done any prep work on it, the likelihood of a positive outcome is not going to be good, even if it's secondary, right? Like unless it's absolutely positively, the examiner sides with you, it's not going to end well. So some of the things for evidence that I just talk about is, have at least, some medical evidence under your belt before you file a claim, at least providing some kind of correlation or causation. Um, that's what I was going to say. I usually go, whenever I go to my examiner, I talk about, hey, look, I would like to add this specific topic to my treatment plan. That's how I get away with, I don't, but if you say that I am helping, then I will take your word for it. But whenever you go to your doctor, you talk about the thing that you want to talk about and say, I want to add this to my treatment plan. Okay. Um, I want to talk about my chronic pain, and I want to add the fact that, like, I want to try to manage my chronic pain. I'm just going to use this as an example, but I will switch to other examples throughout this. I want to add depression to my treatment plan for chronic pain because I've noticed that my chronic pain, it might not be too severe. It might be like a 2 out of 10, or it might be a 3 out of 10, but my chronic pain is unrelenting. So it wears me down, right? And I'm unable to get away from it. And that in and of itself manifests the depression, right? Like this, I'm just can be speaking from myself, or but those are the things that I like to see. Even though, it's impossible to test for that, right? But a consistent medical story for a long period of time, that's evidence that weighs more probatively towards the rater. Now, obviously, you're trying to convince the examiner of something for service connection, but if you're trying to do increases, you're also trying to convince the examiner, but you're also trying to convince the rater, hey, make sure they don't miss this, right? Please, rater, make sure that they don't miss this. And sometimes you can even ask the rater in, like, let's say a VA form 21 4138 form. Hey, rater, please make sure, to do the long form narrative. And please make sure that they account for all of my medical records that I've put in for. It's not an unreasonable ask. Let me see here. So, for secondary claims and all claims in general, for the most part, you should be doing that level of evidence. Um, I don't want to say review, but I want to make sure that you are going to the doctor a few times to really show in your medical evidence that, number one, you have a chronic condition, and number two, that you're starting to lay the foundation for that association. Because if you don't lay the foundation for an association, A caused B, then the examiner's likely not going to get there. They're going to stray. They're going to think that before, um, you know, it's due to this other thing. They will grab the low hanging fruit. And if you're not proposing the low hanging fruit, then you need more evidence to show to sway that examiner as to why that secondary is a thing. Now, we'll try to do a little bit less rambling here. But let's say that you wanted to do a secondary due to obesity, right? They call it the intermediate step. And the intermediate step is where, let's say that you have a spine condition. I'll just use this one because it's fresh on my brain. You have a spine condition, and your spine condition prevents you from being able to exercise. And sorry, I was reading something that you're unable to exercise due to pain, due to limitation of motion, due to doctor's orders potentially, maybe recently had a surgery. Or let's say that you had started a new medication and that medication caused you to gain a significant amount of weight, like sertraline for mental health, let's say. Sometimes in people, it can cause them to gain a massive amount of weight. If you notice anything like that, you need to point it out. Anthony, no. No. Now I'm going to say right here, chiropractors get the raw end of the deal, okay, a lot of the time, because chiropractors, unless they have a medical license, like a medical license to where they can medically diagnose things in a medical capacity, typically their opinions, their notes don't really matter. I know a lot of, like, the VA sends you to chiropractors, right, for treatment purposes. Well, the VA also sends you to physical therapists, but physical therapists are not able to diagnose anything either, right? So I'm not trying to dog on chiropractors, but not a lot of weight is put into what they have to say, unfortunately. I apologize for that, Anthony. And also, thank you, MCM649. I appreciate this. Like, your guys' support is awesome. And, you're supporting hopefully a squeaky chair soon. We're trying to get that squeaky chair resolved. But back to the secondary for the obesity and the intermediate step. Okay, what I like to see is number one, that you have medical evidence showing that you are obese over a period of time, right? So sometimes what this might mean that you have to delay well, hold on. I can tell you right now, a chiropractor they don't have an MPI number for the most part. But if they did, they would have to fill it out like any other provider would, right? Like we'd have to know that they are a sole practitioner is the terminology, that they are a sole practitioner. And if they do, which, you know what? If they do, you need to point that out in a VA form 21-4138. Now, guys, hold on. Let me do this. This is very important. If you write into your examination on a unicorn, let's say that you have a situation, like CH Tim does, where he has a chiropractor that's outside of the norm, that has a medical licensure, that does have an MPI number. Anytime that you have something like that to where it's outside of the norm, you need to be filling out the VA form 21-4138 and reporting it. RVSR, Rater, however you want to do it. Please understand, my particular examiner does have an MPI number, or my chiropractor does have an MPI number. Please look this up. They are a qualified clinician at this point in time. Now, if they are a sole proprietor, CH Tim, so keep that in mind. How the new updated M21 would apply OSA secondary to PTSD. Okay, so this is kind of what I'm talking about. So sleep apnea, right? There's a few different ways that, like, sleep apnea could be applied. But I want to finish my thought on the intermediate step, and I will use your example, PF, for my intermediate step. So what I want to see is, I want to see a long-standing history, medical history of how you're gaining weight. I want to notice, like, as a rater, I want to see when did that, and also the examiners want to see this. They want to see the date that you had that uptick on weight gain, okay? And they want to acknowledge that date, right? So then they start looking for things that are associated with that date for weight gain. Like, if you were to be like PF here, and let's say that they did an intermediate step issue with PTSD caused them to be overweight, and weight gain caused the sleep apnea, right? For that premise to be true, the PTSD would have to be diagnosed before the weight gain, or the incident that caused the PTSD would have to be done before the weight gain. If you had a circumstance where the weight gain started before the event started, then that's going to be a problem. You have to be a little bit of junior detectives in your own claims, guys. You need to look for this kind of stuff because the examiner is going to be looking for this kind of stuff. The examiner is going to be looking for when things happen, how the correlations happened. If you said that weight gain happened before, that weight gain is what caused your thing, and they can prove that the weight gain occurred before the thing that you're claiming caused the weight gain, then it shoots a hole in the bottom of your boat when it comes to how you're claiming it, right? It's going to sink. So be mindful not to claim things that don't make chronological sense. They have to be in chronological order to where literally an idiot could discern it, right? I got diagnosed in 2012. 2013, I started gaining weight. 2017, I started I became morbid. I became obese at body mass 30. BMI of 30. 2020, 2015. Okay, we'll just say 2015, body mass 30. 2016, OSA is diagnosed. Symptoms of snoring in between that 2015, 2016 time. That is a powerful chronological set of causal evidence, right? To where that lends credibility to the theory of the intermediate step. Okay. Now, OSA secondary. So that's going to be the intermediate step. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little all over the place. I'm kind of rushed, but now I would also like to see, because the examiner would like to see it and the rater would like to see it, all the evidence that you can use to support that. Here's, my medical records, my private medical records showing all of my weights from here until here. There's nothing else happened medically during that period of time. Nothing else happened psychologically during that period of time. Like my PTSD happened and then my weight gain happened. Prove me wrong type situation, right? So that's kind of the pathway for what I would like to see. I would also like to see buddy statements in support of the chronological timeline. I would also like to see things that show how the person making the buddy statement is related to you and how they would know that information, like a marriage license, something like that. Now, to this specific question, OSA secondary to PTSD with TBI residuals, this is going to be up to the examiner. I can tell you right now that the rater's not going to they will take the examiner's word for whatever they come up with directly. Now, can TBI cause neurological issues to deal with mixed or central sleep apnea? Sure. Can they also cause, can TBI also cause issues with, potential limiting factors to cause you to gain weight and do the intermediate steps? Sure. Right. But this is going to be one of those situations. If they have a claim in front of them, if a rater does, they're going to side more with what the examiner says. And it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys are into politics or not, but like there's times whenever a politician's like they're a delegate or they're kind of a trustee, depending on if they're going to get, if re-election's coming up. So sometimes that's the same thing with raters, where raters can sometimes make decisions or overrule an examiner, and sometimes they just trust the examiner. So this would be one of the situations where they just trust the examiner. Let me see here. So yeah, secondary, because secondary claims are in the here and now, to me personally, the buddy statement and the lay statements matter a lot more for them. And that's going to seem kind of contrary to like, you know, the the direct theory where it's like, hey, I'm a Vietnam veteran and I have my buddy that was back in Vietnam and they witnessed this thing. And the reason why, and I'm being objective here, is that a person's current recollection weighs more to me than a person's recollection of 40 years ago, depending on, like it's harder for the recollection going back that far to have as much weight just based upon the nature of, uh, reports of individuals over that degrade over a long period of time. Memories degrade, things like that. So I find the personal statements to be more probative in the here and now, just on their face, right? Like just, oh, okay, so they say it, yeah. I don't blink an eye at it. I haven't heard of anyone else blinking, an eye at it. So it would behoove you to put, oh, sorry, I'm reading, trying to read. I know there's a lot of questions, guys, but I'm probably not going to get to all of them. But yeah, so anytime you're doing a secondary claim, it behooves you to do, you know, um, personal statements, buddy statements. Those you shouldn't see it as a slam dunk necessarily. I know I've talked positively about, um, sorry, Grace. Yes, if you were hospitalized for anything, you can if you were hospitalized for a head injury, yes, you could follow the TBI pathway if you wanted to. Yes, perfectly fine. Um, it would be probably direct, actually. It wouldn't be secondary, it'd probably be direct. Everything would probably be direct or merged together. TBI is kind of weird where it cannibalizes a lot of different symptoms. Okay. So going back to the secondary theories, right? And the evidence that we kind of want to see with those, right? Another thing that I find to be kind of more probative in the here and now is for the secondaries, the research articles, right? Research articles into can A cause B. When you guys submit those, and I believe that they're a good idea, is to submit a few of those with your claim. And the reason why is because you're not submitting it to the rater because the raters, they don't know about medical anything half the time, more than half the time, like 97% of the time. None of them have been in the medical field. So, but you're actually sending that to the examiner. And it's important that whenever you're going to an examination that you know who, based upon what you're claiming, you need to know whether or not that condition is decided by the examiner or that condition is decided by the rater. Okay. So the majority of symptoms or of conditions, right? The majority of conditions are decided by the examiners. However, there are some conditions that are decided by the raters, like um, migraines at 50% is half decided by the rater and their interpretation. Um, yeah, I don't know, Rob. I don't know why. I haven't removed it. Um, I don't have any specific things up. I know GC Jarhead. If you see anything weird, let me know, please. Um, okay, Derek. How much weight does a single CMP examiner's opinion carry compared to years of documented service, treatment records, and civilian private care medical notes? Okay. Derek, I'm going to say this nicely. They have absolute power. Okay. And the reason why they have absolute power is because we have asked them to take in all of that evidence and make a decision based upon all that evidence. Now, here's the problem, and this goes beyond secondary service connection. It goes for all theories that aren't presumptive, right? Where a medical provider is providing a medical opinion. The bias of the medical examiner comes into question in every decision. So, how they were trained medically, how everything they take in all the evidence and they kind of filter it through their medical licensure and their medical opinion and their medical training, and then they weigh, is it 51% likely, is it at least likely as not, yes or no? So they have absolute power. Now where the rater comes in is sometimes you can see that bias, right? You, yes, hit the like button, McNasty. You hit that like button, everybody hit that like button. But what happens is that the examiner holds all the cards in the majority of service connection decisions, right? Their medical opinion is what you're getting. Like their medical opinion decides whether or not you are service connected or not. So, where the rater comes in is if there's any conflicting evidence in there. So this is why preparing the evidence beforehand, right? Going to the doctor matters. Like getting your ducks in a row, talking about how things are done matters because the rater can go, well, wait a minute. You didn't talk about this thing right here. They were hospitalized. Let's just use that head injury. They were hospitalized for a head injury. Did you account for that? And we'll defer it back, right? So it is important that you front load as much evidence that you can in the direction of the theory that you are trying to claim. So that way the rater can come in hopefully and go, whoa, 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 hold on. Yeah, you kind of prematurely did this. You didn't speak to any of this other stuff over here. Could you please speak to this other stuff? Now, guys, I'm going to get real quiet here because I don't want anybody to hear me. Okay, I don't want anybody to hear me, but just us. Okay, just us. I have sometimes leveraged that point to get the examiner to change their mind. Okay. That's just between us, okay? Now, I didn't say anything. I didn't lead the witness in any way, shape, or form, and I didn't pose the questions in a biased form, but I did say, "Hey, look, did you consider this evidence over here that clear, that appears to clearly show that they were diagnosed with a head trauma? They were butt stocked in service and they were hospitalized for it. And it appears that the hospitalization was severe enough to cause them to have to be hospitalized for 5 days. um Shh, everybody, shh, quiet. This is secret stuff. But it has actually worked out to where the examiner, oh shoot, I missed that. They said, hey, look, I'm a human being, I missed that, and then they changed their mind. They rewrote their medical opinion in favor of the veteran, which is ideally what we want. We want a full examination, we want a full review of the evidence. But if you do not front load evidence to point to the theory that you're talking about, right, that you're posing, and you should only technically be posing one theory at a time, right? Because you want that examiner to start out with a 50-50 bias. It's either what the veteran's saying or everything else. You don't want to submit like, hey, it could be this, it could be that, it could be this. If you're not sure about it, why do you think the examiner is going to be sure about it? Now, clearly, if it's some kind of like stroke related thing, or if it's a heart condition, or like something weirdly easy to say A caused B, then sure, right? And thank you, Mr. International. You are a gentleman and a scholar, or a ma'am and a scholar, or something. I don't know. But yeah, exactly. Nobody heard a thing, right? But honestly, guys, that's what the rater should be there for. Is like, wait a minute, like that's the times whenever I have to stay on the legal side of the fence, and the medical examiner has to stay on the medical side of the fence. But sometimes the rater can lean over the fence and go, hey, like a good neighbor, did you look at that? And sometimes we can do that. So okay, this is this would be what I would like to call this is a mistake, but it's probably not one that would. Yeah, I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't talk about it. I wouldn't touch it unless, oh geez, polyps. Oof. Okay. Okay, here's what I would do, June. And this is coming back to my, like, I should have like a, in case of emergency break glass, like trauma kit for you guys. Anytime that you do this, you want to go into a VSO, you want to pull up the rating, the examinations, and you want to go look at my sinusitis and my rhinitis videos, and you want to make sure that all the boxes are checked for sinusitis to be 50%. Like, you don't ask a question unless you already know the answer. Okay? Like June or June's, I'm just going to say June, but I need you to understand that. Like, this is the way that you should, you know, you're out in the middle of a frozen lake and you hear ice crack and you don't want to take too many steps unless you know that the ground below you is firm. Okay. If it's not firm, I wouldn't claim the nasal polyps. If it is firm to where you can go back to that particular DBQ and go back to my sinusitis, how is it rated? And you can go, okay, yes, per this video, it says, okay, yes, I'm 50% for sinusitis, locked in. Then I would do a higher level review and go, hey, look, number one, well, actually, no, I wouldn't do a higher level review. I would do an increase on my rhinitis. Actually, no, hold on. I'm gonna retract what I just said because I don't trust the rater. I would do a higher level review to get it sorted out, number one. And then I would submit an increase after that because I would want a DRO to sort it out. Hold on. Daryl. Okay. Why don't I show my face? Fantastic. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. So VA VSRs are public trust level 2 employees. Raters are public trust level 3 employees. Now, if you don't know what a public trust employee is, it's somebody that has, at level 3, you have what is known as secret clearance. So, like in the military, you had secret clearance, right? Well, there's a civilian version of secret clearance. And because raters are in a position of being able to be legitimately coerced for money to provide a specific outcome, you have to be cautious about telling people what you do for a living, let alone showing your face and doxing yourself, because you don't want you have to go through an extensive like year-long background check to be a rater. It's a pain in the butt. I had to explain the weirdest things to them because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't in somebody's pocket. I wasn't being coerced. That's why I keep my business private. And that's why I will not, after I retire, I will not say when I retired because I don't want there to be any kind of scrutiny towards me, because I like to keep the fact that I was, had a unblemished public trust level 3 status. How much for honor? Now, okay, you guys laugh at that, but go look in the news about Puerto Rico. Okay, Puerto Rico had a recent thing where they were, well, I want to say 2023, 2024 type thing, maybe 2022. They had a little scheme going on where the veterans would pay in Puerto Rico, veterans would pay to get a specific outcome. And there was a coach involved. There was a whole bunch of people involved, including raters, to where they would filter, like veterans would pay. The claims would get pulled in magically and given to a specific raters to rate a specific way. And the coaches, no MCM. No, I don't. No, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Yes, and they did get caught and they went to jail. But it's more egregious for us because we are susceptible to coercion on a completely different level because we're adjudicators. We actually make decisions. We can decide yes or no. And with them only pulling 3, no, I'm not breaking any rules because I'm not talking about specific claims, right? I'm not helping you with your claim, MCM, right? And I also don't know who you are, right? So even if I, hypothetically would have received your claim, there's no way for me to know who you are, right? Even if I know what your name is, there's no way for me to know that, right? That is you. Like I don't have any of the PII or anything like that. Like, so it's not like that. Yeah. But I am transitioning out of the VA, right? Retiring just because it's my time to retire. But Puerto Rico is an example of why you have to be very cautious with this. And it's why raters won't call you. It's why raters don't publicly announce who they are typically, right? Because they don't want to, they can't afford to be put under that level of scrutiny. So that. Let me go there. Sinusitis with with psyops. Oh, okay, that's funny. Okay. Yeah, Puerto Rico's had a few things like Puerto Rico. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This is actually hold on. Let me go here. Okay, so Puerto Rico, God bless them, right? I have nothing against Puerto Rico. They're the reason why your private DBQs are under so much scrutiny right now. Because over the years, Puerto Rico has had a pay to play mentality. They used to call it the ruler method. Okay. This is how prevalent this was. They had it, it was the ruler method where you would go to a doctor down there and they would take your medical records and they would put a ruler up and you'd have to pay $100 for every inch. So, unfortunately, Manila's not so bad actually. Um, Puerto Rico is notorious because here's the thing, like there's such a discrepancy in the pay down there. Because if you're a raider, you're living high on the hog, but people will pay like there's generational salaries that you can make down there based upon getting a service connected disability to 100%. It's the difference between poverty and living quite well. Okay. Uh, just the 100% rating down there can change your life. And I mean, that's both sad and it's both awesome at the same time, you know? Yeah, yeah, Daryl. Yeah, I've seen that guy too. But see, okay. And I do want to talk about that for a second because I'm not going to throw any shade that person's way, but I'm going to say that this channel, I want to do it differently. Okay. I don't want to sell you a book. I don't want to sell you anything. If you wish to donate out of the goodness of your heart, that's fine. You guys can do that. You don't have to. But the one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to have a paywall for you to have information that you should have, um, up front. Okay. Like you guys should have access to a lot of this stuff. You should have access to the disposition of the Raiders. You should have access to, yeah, to everything. Right. So I'm not throwing shade at the person. I'm just saying that, there's room for everybody to have their thing. And my thing is, I don't want to I mean, I just wanna do ads and that's it, and those are annoying enough as is, and I apologize for that. But I don't want to, I don't wanna paywall you guys. No videos are behind paywall, none of this is behind paywall. The only thing you have to do to be able to, post a comment is subscribe, and if that's the worst you have to do, then, so be it. Um, rambling done. Rambling done. Um And I also don't wanna do like, "Hey, look, like, I know this DBQ farm mill place that they'll do whatever you say. You wanna have leprosy, bro? You've got leprosy for $1,200." Like, I don't wanna do that, okay? Like, that's not what I'm about. Um, leprosy is real. What should have been included? Aggravation. Okay, so I am gonna be doing a aggravation video probably tomorrow. I have to do that theory. But the thing that you definitely need aggravation's a horse of a different color. So aggravation, you have to point out number one, go to the VSO before you start talking about uh go to the VSO and have them pull up your entrance exams. I want to say it's a 2801 form. If you have entrance exams for your condition, um, make sure that you look at them to see if the condition is listed on there. If it is listed on your entrance exams, then what is known as the presumption of soundness has been broken for that condition. You had the condition, it's pre-existing. So then you want to look and you want to double triple check as to what the severity is. If they say asymptomatic on it at MEPS, like you said, then you want to take a mental picture of that, and also maybe a physical picture if you can get it. And you want to actually, what happens with aggravation is whatever we could potentially rate it as at entrance into service. So if you're asymptomatic, that would be 0%, right? The way that the aggravation works is they take the initial entry percentage, if we can determine what it is, and we subtract it from whatever they evaluate. Now, you have to have some kind of treatment in service that the examiner says that the condition was made worse, that the in service injury exacerbated the condition beyond its natural disease progression, is what it's going to turn up to. So, um, like, hey, look, I hurt my foot and it's never been the same. Like, I went from not being painful to being painful. That might be how I talk about it in the exam request, or in the exam assessment. No, CMP exam. That's the words I'm looking for. But that's basically what you should include, is those two things. It wasn't symptomatic beforehand. I had an injury in service and it became symptomatic, and it has been symptomatic from service, if that's true for you. And the reason why is because aggravation has this really weird and unique facet to it that you specifically, as the veteran, have to prove that it became worse. Unlike the other theories, you don't have to prove anything. Like, you just have to show that you were injured in service, and then the examiner will make that. But you have to prove that it was made worse. It's kind of weird. But oh, so how do you get your entrance exams? You would have to do like a FOIA request, or I have seen this work sometimes. If you go to the public contact at the regional office in your state, then you can sometimes get them to print out your basically your C file for the VA, and your OMPF records, your OM. Oh man, I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's basically your military personnel file. Um, Thank you, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So you would have them print that out for you, and they'll give it to you on a disc. They've done it for me. Sometimes it depends on the disposition of the people at public contact and whether or not they feel comfortable doing it. You can some like It's hard to ask for just the 2801 form because they'd have to be digging through your records for like an hour. A lot of those people don't know what they look like, so you'd have to get the whole record or do a FOIA request, and they'd be in there. Now, here's the suck news. Okay, the suck news is 20 years ago they might not have kept your OMPF record. Like, sometimes it's not in your military personnel file. It just happens. It becomes even worse if you're uh, it's worse if you're a National Guard or reservist, because you might not have had an entrance exam at each individual opportune time. So just keep that in mind. Let me see here. Okay, sorry. Just reading. So I've kind of talked about the secondary theory a little bit. I'm probably gonna anytime I do one of these TED Talky type things, I want to spend like 30 to 45 minutes on the topic, and then I'll probably put out a more concrete and in-depth video about like the secondary evidence and what I like to see. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that on my little whiteboard right here. So secondary video, evidence video. And I'll put one out for you guys because, sometimes I don't get the full scope of the topic in these TED Talky situations. So I'll go ahead and make sure that I note that. And now we're going to go into the Q&A. Yeah, I have seen VetCom. I know who they are. I have seen some of the stuff that they say, which weirds me out sometimes. Not talking nasty towards them, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes they say the weirdest things that I'm just like, okay, that must be weird to work there. Um, George, thank you so much. We're just going to do a lightning round. Mr. International, in your experience, what would you say the accuracy rate of a typical claim? It's a hot mess. It's all over the place. I wouldn't even begin to quantify that because there's what the VA tracks as the accuracy, and then there's the real accuracy. Because you've got somebody screws up, they don't get it determined that they even screwed up, and then the rater has to fix it, and then it's on the competency of the rater that you get that has to fix that. It's like it's a game of telephone. Tell me how accurate a game of telephone is between like 10, 12 people sometimes. I mean, it can be maddening how incorrect a lot of ratings are that don't get caught by quality and or the staff members doing them because of a lack of training and a lack of education and a lack of missed opportunities that weren't acted upon. So it can be yes, we can, Sherry, tell when you use AI, but it doesn't matter to us because the AI statements that you guys make are for the examiners for the most part. Think all symptoms that you guys talk about and all nexus and correlations and all those things, you're telling that to the examiner. So you need to make sure that it it hits with the examiner and not with the rater, unless it's one of the situations where the rater is the person that decides it, like TDIU or something along those lines. Yeah, yeah, okay. Uh, Back fist 9.99. Thank you for all. Rated 50% for PTSD with multi stressors. Second career as first responder with tons of stressors. Will this complicate things to get to 70? Okay. So this is a common misconception, back fist. Once you're service connected, anything can happen. And it doesn't have to be service connected stuff that causes your condition to be worse after you're service connected. It's whatever. Your dog dies, sure. That symptom counts towards your 70%. Like I know that sometimes you guys hear this and it upsets me too. Trauma is trauma. Once you're service connected, everything after that, trauma is trauma. It doesn't matter what caused it. It doesn't matter what the factors are, because that only matters when you're trying to service connect it. After service connection, you could go work in a slaughterhouse. Actually, I did this. So I worked on an oncology ward for a few years. Okay. And that would after service connection, and that counts, right? Like anything horrible that happens to you after service connection counts. Don't worry about this. Okay. So don't worry. It will not complicate anything. You just go and tell them that your symptoms have gotten worse. Um, let's go here. Filing a BDD non-combat PTSD claim due to okay. So you have a misunderstanding here, A. If you're filing a BDD claim, the cause of the PTSD does not matter. All that matters is you have to have a diagnosis of PTSD upon examination or any other mental health condition. For BDD, everything is direct unless it's aggravation, right? Unless it pre-existed service, and we can prove that. But for BDD claims, guys, this is the easiest time you'll ever have it. Okay, that you will ever have it. You just have to show up to the examination and be diagnosed with anything that you claim. We will grant it. Raters love these claims. Um, Roger, sorry, I thought you were going to consult after you retire. I am planning actually to consult after I retire, but it will be independent of this channel. I plan on doing what is it, accredited claims agent after I retire. But that's going to take over a year or something like that. But it will not be like this channel. This channel will be just for providing the information, and it will be how I will not talk about the other thing. It's like how I don't talk about, hey, come donate, come give me money. I don't do that. If you guys want to support it, you can. If you guys, I know, I know. Sorry, my dog is just whining over here. But it's not going to be like a hey look guys, if you want to hear about the newest thing, come over here and, I've got my business and I've got my so and so. I'm not going to do that. Okay. Um, it'll be something that's there if you want it. If you guys believe that my expertise is good and you want to go with my expertise, right, to help you. And the only claims I wouldn't do increased claims or anything like that. I would do hard claims, like supplemental claims that you haven't won beforehand and you've maybe applied for them a few times. That would be things that I would try for. But that's in the future. That's like a year in the future. And then we have thank you for your help. Well, Thomas, thank you for your support. All right, let's get back to it. And I know I've missed a lot of claims or a lot of claims. My brain is, yeah. Um, does it matter if I have a headache code but not migraine? Okay, headache and migraines have the same code. They have 8100 is their code. So that's going to the part that matters between headaches and migraines, okay, and this is kind of weird, is that headaches can be prostrating. And if headaches are prostrating, then they get diagnosed under 8100. Migraines can be prostrating. And if they are prostrating, then they get diagnosed or get rated under 8100 diagnostic code. If headaches are not prostrating, but they're a symptom of sinusitis, then headaches can be a symptom of sinusitis and they can be separately. It doesn't affect the pyramiding rule under 38 CFR 4.14 to where you could have both headaches and migraines, non-prostrating headaches and prostrating migraines, and they could be separately, like each symptom could be attributed to something different and it wouldn't be pyramiding. So I did want to find I'm gonna let you know, and I'm gonna say no to that. And just because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'd have to Google it to see what it is. And I remember every kind of weird, nonsensical thing like necrotizing fasciitis and whatnot. I remember every kind of weird, crazy thing I've ever seen, and I've never seen that. So is it possible? Potentially. I'd have to Google it. Thank you. I appreciate this. Um, okay. Lynn, my thoughts on occupational assessments for TDIU claims. Uh, hold on. Okay. I think I'm prefacing this right. Occupational assessments are typically used by raters to say no. Okay. So occupational impact assessments are mandatory for TDIU claims or individual unemployability claims. And what happens is for a TDIU claim, you get increased exams for everything that, um, you know, to try to determine if you can be a natural 100%. And then you transition into this situation where they do a medical opinion to see if, like, how impaired are like your prior job. What were the job duties that your prior job had you do? Which, pro tip, you should be submitting the job duties that your previous job had you do with your claim. If you don't, then you leave it up to the imagination of the rater to figure out what it is that your job had you do. And I'm going to share a little secret with you, Lynn. They get it wrong. They don't care. Like, it's a scare. Like, anytime there's a lot of moving parts with a claim, you'll see the rater. If the rater doesn't type a lot, it's because they don't have confidence with it. If you have a confident rater, they'll type more and they'll free text. We call it free texting, where they'll write stuff in, and it should be where they do a long form narrative and they kind of explain, hey, look, based upon this and this and this. If you get a denial and they didn't do that, then you probably got a rater that wasn't comfortable with IU claims. But typically what'll happen is in that situation, they'll use, oh, you can do sedentary work and you were this, so you could do sedentary work, which isn't necessarily the way it should be done. But, you know, um, it can it can I don't know. TDIU is one of those ones where you want to just make sure that you're currently, you know, you're providing as much information in order to balance out what the examiner says for those economic impact assessments. Let me scroll down here. Da, 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 da. Um, okay, zombie. Can I explain SMCS? Okay, there's two different types. So this is special monthly compensation category S. There's two different types. There's S1 and there's S2. S1 is statutory housebound status. And both and SMCS2 is factual housebound status, like you have no legs, like you can't ambulate, you can't do something like that. Now, the different, like what qualifies and who qualifies, both of the requirements for S1 and S2 are the same. So for S1 and S2, you need to have a single disability at 100% service connected, and you need to have other disabilities that, when you combine them together, equate to 60% disabling. Now, what this is it's like 100% plus one. So they give you about 450 extra dollars because you're severely disabled. So when a person becomes 100%, they just know that there are other potential benefits that you can get beyond just being 100%. This is why you'll sometimes see, and a lot of raters have asked me in the past, why does this veteran keep filing for things after they became 100%? They got their heart condition granted at 100%, but they keep filing all this other stuff. And I'm like, because they're trying to get SMCS1. They're trying to get the special monthly compensation for the additional 400 and something dollars. And they also could be laying the foundation for SMC L. I want to say it's L, but it's aid and attendance, right? So you typically need to have S1 before you have L. And that's a conversation for another day, but SMC is the bane of everybody's existence. Let me see here. Da, da, da. Okay. Check, sir. Hello, Raider. I was awarded 100% earlier this month, 100% depression. Wow, congratulations. 50% for sleep apnea, 40% for degenerative discs. Do I qualify for SMCS? Yes, you do, because you have 100% and you have a 50 and a 40. Yes. So this is a perfect example of somebody that, if you were not service connected for SMC S1, then you would probably want to do a new claim for SMCS1 only. You wouldn't want to do an increase or anything like that. You don't want to raise any of this to issue, right? You would want to do a claim on a 526EZ form, or the equivalent on va.gov. And you would want to do, hey, look, I'm requesting SMCS1. And what'll happen is that's kind of all you want to say on it. You don't want to talk about depression. You don't want to talk about sleep apnea. You don't want to talk about anything, right? Because you want to just, this is where, on my CUNE missed issue video, this is where this would be a missed issue. And you just want to make mention of the missed issue. So that way you can create that dilemma for the rater. And pardon me, because what'll happen is the VSR will send this directly to the rater, because there's no exams for SMCS1 or S2. And it'll just go to adjudication, go to ready for decision. And what'll happen is they will send that, they will raise the missed issue, and they will actually backdate it to when it should have went into play. So it's pretty much, you're calling a CUNE without calling a CUNE. So misses on one of the issues, and declares a good chance they missed all the issues. I don't know what that means. I'll go down to the bottom and catch it later, but uh no. You cannot be rated for diabetic neuropathy without being rated for diabetes. Um yeah, you wanna go hide in the closet. You wanna never speak of this again. You wanna delete this comment and you never wanna talk about this ever again. Yeah, I'm gonna take it down. We're gonna edit the video. We're not gonna talk about this ever again. Oh, Kenneth, can you explain what a compensation services case review means during the claim process before the claim is even decided? Um, there's usually a disconnect between what the veteran gets in the terminology and what the internal terminology is. So, I typically don't. Um, I don't know what that means. I can kind of guess what it means is that somebody got an error, that there was a quality error that was called on your claim to force it to have to go backwards. Anytime you have something like this, go to the VSO, see if they can check the claim notes and see if there's a rationale as to um, what's going on. Because if a claim is open, then we would do all of the fixing within the claim itself. So it's typically due to a quality error, is what I'm going to say. Um, Zombie, they have not yet. There's a reason why I'm not speaking about it and I'm not going over the criteria as it ever evolves and changes, is because I'm not going to do that to you guys. I'm not going to give you a mental health disorder by it changing every 2 days. I'm going to wait until they give a hard date. And then once they give the hard date on the mental health, the sleep apnea, and the tinnitus issues, that's the day I'm going to review them and put them out as a hardcore fact. Once they're dialed in, that's whenever I'll do it. It would be premature for me to do that just because of my personal opinion on it. Could I milk that for clicks? Yes. If other people are doing it, it's fine. Like they're pioneers telling us what's happening, but I wait until something is finalized before I report on it. It's just me. Um, So I was denied sinusitis because it wasn't active at the time of discharge, but has been active, diagnosed, and treated since. How do I file for this? So you would do a supplemental claim and you would go to a VSO and you would figure out who did your prior examination and you would ask to not go through them again because they are an idiot. So I'm trying not to be negative towards whoever did the examination, if it's QTC, LHI, VES, LSGS, I don't know. But I would ask for, if you're receiving treatment for it, number one, let's go back to my TED Talk portion of this. You want to pad your evidence that you're having treatment, what it looks like, so that way there's an accurate representation in your claim, so that way the examiner can have a different outcome based upon the evidence. So, yeah, Sherry, that is definitely a TBI. So that would be what we call an event in service, Sherry. Um, Let me see here. I don't know what that's about. BKK. I'm 100% P&T, got a new diagnosis from the VA for chronic fatigue. No, you shouldn't. There's no value added to that. Chronic fatigue syndrome is so hard to get service connected to begin with. The juice is not worth the squeeze on that one. Even if you had it to where you had a 100% service connected condition, like a single 100% service connected condition, and you were trying for, to get that 60% for SMCS1, I would go with anything else other than that, because it's so hard to get service connected. Yep. Yes, Joe. And I have watched those. The CivDiv is pretty cool. Yeah, no, he's fine because he's letting us know that there's changes are happening, right? And I appreciate that. And since he's already said it, I don't need to say it, right? That the changes are happening and they're delaying things. uh Sometimes I feel like saturating the market is not ideal. So the fact that he's putting that out there helps you guys know that you don't need to submit claims for it out of a rush, or maybe unprepared claims out of a rush. Um, LA Fire. I was wondering if I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's non-lymphoma, not service-connected, a couple of weeks after being activated for Iraqi freedom. Can I get diagnosed with radiation pulmonary? Wow. Okay, that's kind of okay. Did you get diagnosed after being in Iraq? I have questions, LA Fire. Because if you went to Iraq, and then you got diagnosed, I don't know, like that would be up to the examiner, but potentially you could be granted for that. Radiation pneumo, pneumonitis. These are all questions for a medical doctor. Okay, if now this is a good rule of thumb. If you're going to make an association with something, you need to have evidence supporting it from the late, like scientifically, that it can be possible. Number one, that your doctor hopefully suggests that it's probable, right? That they kind of agree with you. Maybe they won't put it in writing, but you're like, hey, is it in the realm of possibility? And they're like, sure. Even if subconsciously they say sure, or they won't put it on paper, but they agree that it's probable or possible or even potential, then that gives you credibility to maybe go down that line. For the PACT Act, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts on this, LA. So, yeah. No, it is not risking pissing off the raider, because they don't have to do it, right? Like the thing that you're trying to do is you're trying to wake the raider up to go, hey, can you just review? Like, I'm asking for a long form narrative. Typically, the raider doesn't have any say in the outcome of your decision. Okay, they're just a checkbox person. Do the checkboxes on the DBQ match the checkboxes on the so and so? What you're trying to do is you're trying to humanize yourself to the raider, because raiders oftentimes claim after claim after claim forget that there's a human being on the other side of that claim. Okay. And you sometimes ask them, hey, look, I don't understand why I was previously denied on this. Could you please do the long form narrative to explain to me what evidence was in my favor, what evidence wasn't in my favor? If you're just talking to them like you would be talking to me, like this, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the human aspect. Okay, so let me see here. So my email is just literally this. I'm going to type it out. Hear me type. I had to complain about that. My keys are too loud. Felt bad. But that's my raider.hq@gmail.com. I mean, it's not like come my pillow, like buy the pillow, not a branding thing. Okay, will my board certified mental health therapist, not psychologist, make a statement in support of my secondary PTSD obesity claim carry any weight to no? Old Texan, it won't. It sadly won't. And it's because the person is not qualified to diagnose PTSD. So you're going to have to, yeah, I apologize, but it will not have any weight. If the raider misses one of your claims, is it a good idea? Good chance. I'm sorry. They missed on all of them. I don't know what this means. On a multiple disability claim, and do supplementals go to a different raider? Yes, supplementals would go to a different raider. Typically, one raider does not Like your claim gets pushed out to the national work queue, and the national work queue pushes your claim across the nation to include Manila. So, um, sorry, let me said something funny. Um, is it a good chance they missed on all of them? Yes, it is. So this is why. Okay, Bohiny. This is why I always say, even if you got a good rating decision, go and check it out. Go to the VSO, double check your DBQs. Unless you're at scheduler maximum for the thing that you got rated, and that means like if the maximum is 60% and you got 60%, cool. If you got Pez Planus at 50%, then you don't need to check anything. But if there's still room to grow in those conditions, I would go double check the DBQs. I hate Waco, Jordan. Hold on. Wake. Mm. You hit my trigger word, Jordan. Jordan, you're a bad person. You hit my trigger word. Hold on. Let me just try here. So what you want to do is you want to go and double check the DBQs against what you were granted. Make sure everything lines up. Even on a win, guys, you want to do that. Okay. Come on, stop sitting here. I'm sitting here with you and I'm lifting these weights and I'm just thinking to myself that all of you people are beautiful. Sorry, just had to do it. No bad mojo asked me to. But no, that's what I would do if I had a claim. Even if I won, even if I was granted, I would still review the DBQs with a VSO to make sure that everything was dress right dress. If it is, cool. If not, no. Um, Now, hold on. I want to scroll way down here. Thank you, TC. Can you service connect condition aggravation something that was diagnosed after your service that was not what the? Wow, TC. Okay. This is like double negative central here, man. Okay. Yeah. So, Bruce, sometimes a man is not really a good person, Bruce. Sorry. Sorry. Can can your service connected condition aggravate something that was diagnosed after your service that was not that double negative's got me on the side. Okay. That's what we call a secondary. So can you secondary something to something that was service connected? Yes, I think is what we're talking about here. Um, but yes. No. All right. Who's a VSO here? I thought I saw somebody was a VSO here. I'm just kind of going through. And I also wanted to say something real quick. I wanted to say, I say CU and E, and I say it really weird, but it has to do. You also hear me say T and P a lot of the time, which is weird because you have, in order to be permanent, you have to be total. So you have to be total, and then you can be permanent. That's why I say T and P. I say it backwards. It's just how I've internalized it from doing the claims the way that I do. But I also do the zombie, you're killing me. I already explained that. Kill me, zombie. But I say C, U, and E because it can be clear and unmistakable. You can point out the fact of, hey, they didn't apply 20, 38 CFR 2501. They didn't report it. Okay, that could be clear and unmistakable that they didn't report it. But is it an error? And the answer is no. It's not. They don't have to. On a short form narrative, they don't have to provide you any of the CFRs if they don't want to. It doesn't rise to the occasion of an error, right? Same thing if they left off a favorable finding. It's not technically an error. It could be clear and unmistakable that they didn't provide it, but it's not an error. So that's why I say CU and E. It has to have the and E part. So really weird. Queen, you guys are asking me questions that are hurting my brain. What is the process of getting PNT from 100%? Well, okay, so the total portion of it is the 100%. Like that's what total means whenever you're 100%. So the permanent part, you have to be static. So my recommendation on this, Queen, is you can tell that your PNT if you were awarded DEA, Dependence Education Assistance, in the decision that made you 100%, if you were granted DEA, then you're PNT. There's no all the things that made you 100% are PNT. Jordan, you are jumping up and down on my trigger word right now. Okay, hold on. I'm scrolling all the way down. I don't even care. Okay, my trigger word is Waco. Waco. That's my trigger word. Okay, I have my own opinion about the Waco RO. Okay, and I have blood pressure meds because of the Waco RO. Okay, that's all I'm going to say on it because I'm a professional and I'm not going to disparage them other than to maybe say that sometimes they do good claims. Sometimes people that murder other people don't kill other people either, right? But sometimes Waco does things that boggle my soul. Okay, that I just just put my head in my hands and I just scream for a second and then I work the claim that was given to me by Waco. In the past, historically, Waco has been a and they think they're doing the Lord's work too. Sometimes they just think they're doing the right thing, and I just and I've caught a couple of errors from the Waco RO, and I got them overturned relatively easily because it doesn't take much to I don't know. I don't know. Waco, yeah, but Waco drives me nuts. I just I I could expand on my Waco deal, but it just nope, nope. Where to go? I lost it. Can you expand on your Waco deal? Well, there's just some ROs that okay, there's 57 ROs in the nation. Well, across the world, there's like 57 ROs, regional offices. Not every one of them is in the top 10 for quality and production, right? Like there's a few of them that are historically bad, right? Like they have there's internal prejudices, okay? Some people might like Waco, okay? Some people might not. I could name a few. I have my top 3 that just they drive you can tell when you get a claim from them because you can go into the claim notes and you can see what regional office they are. Every regional office has a 3-digit code. Okay. Yeah, Waco is huge. But you can tell who did it based on the code, like 3 something, typically there's a 3-digit code as to which RO exclusively assigned to each RO. And you can just tell Waco's. And every time I tell Waco, I just take in a big sigh, just big breath, and just kind of hold it for a second. I just go, come on, big money, no whammies. Big money, no whammies, right? Because I cannot with them sometimes. Not every time, right? Like sometimes you get some good people in there. You'd have to go to Zombie, you'd have to go to va.gov and you'd have to look for raider positions. It's not a bad job in whenever the environment's nice. Right now they're just changing the environment to change the environment. I won't go too much into it, other than to say that we've done a lot of claims. If you ever drop something and have to pick it up 5 times, you could say that you picked up a lot of things, but you only picked up the same thing 5 times. I mean, we've done a lot of claims, but we've had to redo a lot of claims because we didn't get it right the first time. Oh no, no, no bad mojo. I'm not doing that. Nope, nope, no way on earth, no way under heaven. No, nope. That ain't happening, guys. I'm not doing a greatest hits list on who's good and who's bad. Um, I mean, yeah, but it's a national thing. I mean, where you can kind of see like every month you get You get a printout. Your local RO will send you like a, "Hey guys, we're at so and so percentage." And they typically go by production. They don't like talking about quality very much. But I got the VSR job. Uh, Actually, if you've never been in the medical field, and you've never, actually, hold on, this will be like a PSA. So, if you wanted to get a job at the VA, like let's say you wanted to get a job to maybe learn how the system works, so that way you could get your claim from whatever it is to 100% by knowing the internal process. And I'm not going to say that this is what I did, but I'm just going to say that that's a thing. Maybe I did that. Who knows? But um, what they want, like they like to have you earn your, like, I don't know, you start out in the call center, right? I want to say it's a GS5 to 9 job, where you go to the call center. And yeah, Jordan, actually, hold on. This is true. I'm not going to lie. I have so many feelings about this. And if I, like, once again, this is a Doug Collins thing, Mr. Doug Collins. Whew, if if you if you can point to 4 people that are related to you in the RO directly, something's wrong. Okay? You're not, the best and the brightest are not being hired if it's relation. No, right? Like, if the only reason they're there is because they're your cousin, that is not the way at all. But an MSA is a different thing, Gary. MSAs are typically on the VHA side of the fence. They got PSAs on the yeah, they got a version of the MSA, a PSA on the VBA side. But yeah. Um I mean, yeah, this is actually on the inside too, MCM. Are you a VSO? I thought you said you were a VSO. But honest to God, I being a Raider is an awesome gig. Or it used to be about the facts. Every claim was like a mystery. You would go through and you would read the evidence, and it would be like you're getting to know somebody. You're getting to know their story, and you're their advocate, right? Like, and you're the one that's going to make sure that the laws and the rules and the regulations are upheld in their favor. And that's not what I feel like anymore, right? It's now a, you know, we got to claw this back, or there's this tone, and I don't know how to describe it more than a tone of get your work done, but it's not very veteran centric. I don't know. And that could just be where, I've been. It could be the people that I've hung out with. It could be the tone, just the tone of the individuals that I came into contact with. And it could not be maybe the overall theme across the nation. It would be hard to generalize my personal experiences. So I just would like to say that up front. Oh, how much does a Raider get paid? Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on. Let me So Raiders are GS9s to GS12. So GS12's about, depends on your locality pay. GS GS12 pay scale with locality pay. Yeah, sure. So you max out with locality pay. Hold on, give me a second here. Somebody else is going to find it, and then they're going to make me look bad. GS12 starting out like 88,000. At GS12 step 1, you get 10 steps, and then they top out at 115,013 dollars. Typically, it used to be work from home for the most part. You'd get telework, things like that. I don't think they have the Filipino mafia. That's kind of bad, Milton. But here's the fun part. So let's go back there and let's say, okay, we want to see what the hourly wage is of the poor GS12. Okay, so you're working GS12 starts out 48,000 or $48.38. But time and a half. I mean, I was pulling six figures for up until the overtime stopped. They typically don't hire well, okay, now this is why it's a big ticket item, right? You're paid a lot of money to be compensated so you can't be compromised, right? Like that's why they pay you that much money is so you can't be compromised. And if you look at the scale, like how people like the VSRs are GS sevens to GS tens. They're at the first part, right? The development VSRs get paid up to GS10 scale. The middle portion, the rater portion, gets paid up to GS12 scale. And then the final portion of the authorizer gets paid up to GS11 scale. So the most important person is the rater in the equation. The only person that makes more than that is the quality reviewer for the rater, the RQRS. They get GS13s. But you can see kind of why the government might want to claw back some of these positions because you can have hundreds of GS12 employees working in an RO as raters. Hundreds. So that's a lot of money sitting there potentially doing work. But I mean, like the overtime though was what would be crazy because you could do 57 hours of overtime in a pay period. Uh, they get paid hourly. They get paid hourly, so you can have overtime, and yeah. So I think my overtime is 60 something. What is it? It's like 65, $67 an hour. And you can get 50 something hours of overtime, easy peasy, in a pay period. No, not an RQRS. No, just a RVSR. Reviewing my in-process claim for sleep apnea. I see a terror memorandum. That indicates that you either did or did not have exposures to Terra. So toxic exposures of some kind. Terra memorandum itself doesn't indicate something because it'll either be positive and or negative. How is major depressive disorder percentage determined? Okay, the diagnosis for the mental health condition doesn't matter. The diagnosis of the condition isn't determined by the diagnosis. So you could have schizophrenia, you could have adjustment disorder. It wouldn't factor into how you're rated. How you're rated on this is determined based upon the symptoms and the economic impact. Used to be yes. Used to be yes. You could work from home 4 out of 5 days a week is what the historical norm was. They went to an all work from office. Typically, historically, that means that we do less work. Just because a 10-hour day turns into a 12-hour day, hour there, hour back, typically for commute. So, kind of sucks, but. No, zombie, they will give you the clearance. So you become a public trust level 3 employee as a raider. They don't give you a clearance. The fact that you can see the claims and work the claims because you're dealing with so many social security numbers and so much PII that you have to have a secret clearance. But it's something that you kind of just have. It's not something that you can wave around or you have any. It's not like you can show your friends. Like, here's my special card. Like, you don't have anything like that. You just either pass the background check or you don't. Oops, no. Have a DBQ for thoracolumbar spine. I claimed chronic back pain. Will they also check for radiculopathy? Yes, it's built into the DBQ. And thank you for the super sticker, $5. I appreciate it. If your weight gain happened 10 years after your stressor event, can it still be used as an intermediate step for OSA? When did OSA happen, Andrew? That's going to be what happens. That's going to be what tells the tale. So if the OSA was diagnosed before you started the weight gain, then no. If the weight gain happened after or if the OSA happened after the weight gain, then that's a pretty strong secondary intermediate step theory right there, because your evidence would show, hey, look, I had a PTSD stressor. Over time, it's just gotten worse. I gained weight after that. Even if it's 10 years after, yeah. So Andrew, that would be perfect, right? You could make that case. Now, if the OSA happened before the weight gain, your case would kind of fall through, right? Like, if you can explain it to another not layperson, like the order of operations, and it makes sense, that's a good foundation for the examiner to go off of. If you would try to explain it to somebody, a layperson, and it doesn't make sense, yeah, you're going to kind of have a problem, okay? Because you have to think the VSR and the rater are just lay people, right? So if it doesn't make sense to them, you're going to have a problem. Now, let me. Angel, are there some misspelled words in here? If a vet has been Baker Act from their, I don't know what the Baker Act is. Hold on, I'm gonna have to Google that. Now you're gonna make me Google things. Is that like what is the Baker Act? Oh, okay, 5150. We call it 5150. So from their mental health appointment, and now has a oh my god, PD DBQ, psych DBQ. I want to say psych DBQ. Is that a possible 70% and above? It can be. Okay, so this is what I'm going to say. If you are not 70% and you have had mental health to the point that you needed to be 51 hospitalized to some degree, I would say it would be time for an increase. In addition to that, okay, being respectful here, okay, I would maybe do a 21-4138 form, statement in support of the claim, and um, specifically ask whether or not the examiner, or not the examiner, the rater, could manually could consider the current hospitalization or recent hospitalization in their determination and manually upgrade you to the next higher level. I said that in the mental health video. That is something that is possible for them to do. They just need evidence to be able to point to say, hey, here's why I manually upgraded the person, because they had no. Stacy, no, this is not a members only live chat. No. You just have to be subscribed to comment. That's it. But it's not a members only. No. No, no way. I would never have a live chat without it being open to everybody. No, that goes against my mission statement. So no. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I appreciate it. But I hope that this answers it. And honestly, I also want to say that no, I'm not in California, because a 5150 two-physician hold is not exclusive to California. A lot of other states use that. It's a mental health psychiatric evaluation hold that is universal across most states. So, and yes, I do let George in here, so it's an open to everybody forum, as evidenced by George. So let me go here. When rating a C, when a veteran with a PNT rating files a new claim, what causes the VA to review their old rated conditions? All right. Okay. So this has to do with the words you use and how you claim it. This can happen especially with secondary conditions, guys. Okay. So if you say, hey, look, my PTSD has gotten worse, which has caused me to have sleep apnea. The fact that you said, and I'm just saying words, I'm not saying that you did this, but if you said that your PTSD symptoms have gotten worse, which has caused you to have sleep apnea, then you're saying that your PTSD has gotten worse. That's a claim for increase. The VSR cannot let a statement like that lie. They have to consider it or else they get an error. So the way that you have to do it is you have to make sure that when you're reporting this, you say, hey, look, I'm claiming OSA secondary to weight gain caused by PTSD. You provide no qualifying statement that PTSD has gotten worse. You are just saying that, hey, look, A caused B, or A caused B and B was caused by C in the case of the intermediate step. But you want to make sure that you're choosing your words very carefully. And it also helps whenever you're doing a secondary claim. You should also do a VA form 21-4138 and specifically state, guys, this is molto importante, right? Very important here. When you submit a secondary claim and you're kind of concerned about the primary, you don't want to bring it into issue, you can make a statement on the VA form 21-4138 and state, hey, look, my condition of PTSD or whatever it is has not changed since my last CMP examination dated so and so. The symptoms that were reported then are currently the symptoms I have now, if that is true for you. I can't stress that enough. It has to be true for you. So that is my very important statement. I don't know. Does that answer your question? Do you guys find tips and tricks like that to be helpful? It will not work for radiculopathy because in order to... Okay, wait. Hold on. Radiculopathy is a horse of a different color. Now, if the radiculopathy has never been granted before, that back condition, whatever it is, neck or back, for whatever radiculopathy you're claiming, is going to be brought to issue 100%. Okay? That is death taxes level of certainty. Okay? So, if the radiculopathy has been granted and you're just kind of talking about maybe the spine and you're talking about the radiculopathy for the service connected radiculopathy, and you potentially want to do an increase, but you don't want to touch the primary condition of the neck or back, that potentially can be done on a peripheral nerve DBQ. So the rule of thumb for radiculopathy is if it's never been granted before, the back or neck will be drawn into it 100% of the time. No exceptions. If it has been granted before, then it will not draw the primary neck or back into the equation because subsequent radiculopathy reviews are done on the peripheral nerve DBQ. I hope that makes sense. It doesn't to me whenever they brought it up to us. Okay. So I'm skipping around on the questions, guys. So if I missed yours, I'm sorry. Okay. So if you do not have a condition that is itself 100%, you cannot get SMCS. Nope, they just changed this. They actually just changed this. I did a video on it on the M21-1. Jeff, 4138 or the 10-210 is fine. We don't care. Like the form itself does not dictate. I just like to use the 4138 because it's common. You need a single condition at 100%. They just recently took this away. They took away for the ability of a disease to equate to 100%. So it used to be that like Parkinson's disease, even though itself is not 100%, you could have all this Parkinson's related symptoms that would equate to 100%. That could have counted for SMCS1, but they recently took that away. And I don't understand why people are not up in arms about it. It disparagingly affected the Vietnam veteran community because a lot of their conditions that are presumptive for Agent Orange exposure, those are the conditions that could have got you the 100% combined disease process like Parkinson's, ALS, diabetes, things like that used to be able to work towards that SMCS1. Not anymore. Nope, they took it away. But yeah, kind of sucks. So Caleb, I had weight gain during service due to my knee conditions, but got diagnosed with sleep apnea when I got out of service. Still overweight. Intermediate step. Okay, so this would not be an intermediate step. So for you veterans out there that had, let's say, weight gain in your service treatment records, this would be a direct theory for service connection, actually. So now, what you need to do for this, Caleb, and anybody else that this scenario meets their criteria, you need to go to a VSL. You need to have them pull up your STRs, and you need to be able to point to somewhere where it says that you were obese. If you cannot do that, then that might not have made it into your STRs. If you can do that, then I would claim it directly. D, no. An LCSW cannot fill out anything at all. They will not consider it. I mean, they might as well just throw the paper in the trash. Sorry. Let me pull up D's comment so that way we can. Geez, you guys are commenting fast. No, currently, no, no way on earth, no way under heaven. They are not a qualified clinician. They can't diagnose for VA purposes. I disagree with it down to my soul, but it's something that currently is in the M21 that only a psychologist or psychiatrist that they particularly fill out the DBQ. The LCSW can hint to symptoms, but beyond symptoms, they cannot do anything beyond that. And then the examiner can disagree with them and can override them because an LCSW does not carry the licensure weight that a psychiatrist or psychologist does. So even if the LCSW said those symptoms, the rater can't weigh them the same as a psychiatrist or psychologist. So I'm sorry. I apologize for that, D. It sucks. I agree. Severe economic inadaptability change in a migraine DBQ. Okay, so for this one, Rodney, what you need in order to get the 50% is you need for the examiner to mark the boxes of 4A and 4B as yes. And the frequency must be either the, coming off the top of my head here, the bottom two boxes on each question, one of the two must be checked. So the frequency has to be such that you would get at least the 30% rating. Now, 4A gets you 0, 10, or 30%. How they answer that question. Question 4B on the DBQ must be marked yes with a similar frequency as 4A. That's 50% of the equation. The other 50% of the equation is you have to show the rater that you have severe economic inadaptability to your current job due to your migraines. Now, that could be having a reasonable accommodation, an accommodation saying, hey, look, we have to change the lighting in here. You know, I have to work from home because I can't, because of this, that, you know, because of my migraines. You know, I'm afraid I'm going to, you know, I can't drive because when I take my sumatriptan, you know, it makes it to where I can't drive. Or, you know, I've gotten written up at work because I've had too many sick days. I take sick days too many times a month. And, you know, my sick leave is burned through. I'm down to almost zero sick leave because of it. You need to present a case. Okay. Yeah. So you need to present a case for it. It has to be something more than your word, though, Rodney. That's the problem. It has to be something that comes from a third party, like your work, your employer, something to that effect that shows, you know, that something actually is happening. Okay. Service connected for sinus rhinitis, respiratory, wanting to what? WTC during 9/11. World Trade Center. Okay. And we're annually monitored by. Oh, I don't know what WTC is meant for so and so. They diagnose rhinitis later associated with OSA. Will rater consider deference? I look. I need you to redo this. I don't understand the question. Maybe shoot me an email. World Trade Center. I mean, that's fine. Yeah, you were at the World Trade Center. I get that, but you're monitored by World Trade Center Med. World Trade Center is not presumptive for anything. It might be. It's not even. I mean, technically, it's hard because it could fall under potentially Terra, but it doesn't. It's not presumptive for anything. So unless, like, if you went to Iraq or Afghanistan, Rhinitis would probably be uh, deference. Will the raider consider deference? I don't understand. I mean, like, would they defer back? Like, sorry for that. They might consider Terra. I mean, Terra's your best chance. I don't like whatever the examiner says based upon the theory that you provide is going to be what the raider does in this situation. If your claim was sitting in front of me and I read all this stuff, I'd be like, okay, what do you got, examiner? And if the examiner said, yeah, sure, it is, I would want to make sure that however it was claimed, that there was evidence to support it. Yeah, we'd recognize that we'd recognize the diagnosis, yes. But the theory is what's the problem, right? Like the theory is if you want to talk about element 1, element 2, element 3 for this one. The theory, element 2 is the hardest one of this bunch. Like you can get diagnosed with Rhinitis, that's fine. If you were Gulf War vet diagnosed with Rhinitis, we wouldn't care. Like you would be like if as long as you like that would be we would grant you presumptively if you were in the Gulf War, 3.320 and you had the diagnosis of Rhinitis, sure, we'd grant you all day. I don't care how you were diagnosed. No, this would be easy. You're making this a lot harder than what this needs to be. Yeah, already diagnosed, service connected. We wouldn't look back on it. We wouldn't review anything like this. Like it would be um yeah. So yeah, I think this. I might have misunderstood vet out. I'll be honest with you. I could have probably misunderstood this. Why are dependency claims taking so long? I don't know. I did a rant on it. My little shorts that I'm doing of Doug Collins fix this because there's no reason for it. Makes no sense. SMCT, a lot of stuff. You have to have a TBI. You have to convince the TBI coordinator that you have SMCT. Uh, you need to have dependency on a lot of stuff. Like it's involved. So it's kind of a non-answer, but it's hard to get into. Is there a time period that is too long to file for tinnitus? No. No, you just have to convince somebody, which is really weird. Like tinnitus is one of those things where you're dealing almost exclusively with the bias of the examiner. They either believe you or they don't. They believe it's possible or they don't. There's not much convincing that you can do with them, to be honest with you. So, yeah, and if you get denied for it, the best remedy for that is to just do a little bit new evidence and then give it to a different examiner. A new set of eyes, you'll be granted. This is part of my frustration is because you can grant and deny people all day long for the same thing with the same amount of evidence, but it's just the bias of the examiner grants or denies it. It makes no logical sense and it gets my brain going sideways. I submitted a claim for GERD, was denied, but wrong theory was considered. My claim was for GERD secondary to. Okay, so on this one, in order to see if they actually adjudicated you for secondary, you would have to look for 38 CFR 3.310. So I'll just put that in the chat. 38 CFR 3.310. If that is on your rating decision anywhere, Stacy, if that particular CFR is there, then they considered secondary. Okay. They might not have written it at the top, but if that CFR is in there, then the DRO will have considered it to have been considered, if that makes any sense. Going off Caleb's question, if you went to a nutritionist while serving and now have PTSD, you have to have evidence showing that you're overweight. Who did it doesn't matter. No, I get it vet out. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying like you might need to send me an email on that because sometimes, like you said, the character limit on this is not enough to get your point across. And I want to make sure that I answer your question correctly and not get misunderstood. Is the service is in service hospitalization for mono a service connected? No, it is not. So George, you'd have to have a permanent disability that came from sorry, zombies freaking me out. Um, you have to have a permanent disability. Mono typically is an acute or transitory condition that doesn't necessarily last for, there's no oftentimes not residuals. You'd have to prove that the mono caused you to have a permanent disability from it. And if so, then yes, you could do it secondary to the mono, or it would actually be direct at that point in time. It would be under the direct theory. Um, okay, so this can be where they, physically examine your penis, or they can take your word for it, whether or not there's bends or anything like that. I guess I mean, you can refuse the physical examination. I guess I don't know. I mean, it's just mostly talking, but them trying to figure out if you have any kind of predisposition for the erectile dysfunction, like you broke the cartilage of your penis or something. I have no suggestions. If the Timothy, if the rating activity has a duty to maximize your benefits, why did the rater park my SMC claim for A&A, even though I have a claim pending at the BVA under Barry? Okay, Timothy, you may not have two claims open at the same time for the same condition. And if you chose the BVA, then the BVA is the claim that you want to have open. So you may not have two separate groups of people adjudicating the same condition. Now, if you want to go with the VBA over the BVA, I wish they would choose different acronym for this, but they're going to say that the BVA wins. So I hope that answers your question, Timothy. You cannot have two of the same thing open under two separate claims. The examiner has to grab the shafts. Nope. Rudy, you're going to timeout. Bad, Rudy. Please explain more how you can OSA as direct if you were obese in service. That's basically it. I would literally say, if you can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were diagnosed with obesity in service, then you were in service obese, and you would just claim, OSA due to obesity identified and manifested in service. And because the VA likes obesity more than they like anything else as a cause for OSA, um, it's potentially likely to be granted. It doesn't necessarily matter that you were diagnosed 20 years later, right? We're looking at the cause of the obesity. If the cause of the obesity started in service, then that's what we're going to go with as the element two, right? I have to turn on my light above and a fan. So if you hear a fan, that's why. So this is fine. It's not like, as long as the timeline matches up that your obesity happened before your OSA, that's all that matters. Um, and the weight is clearly in the SDRs. Then you have element two. That's what element two would be, is the weight gain in there. Thank you for the support, by the way. I appreciate it. It's always appreciated, always welcomed, but never required. So, waiting on my records, getting really close to the 1 year deadline, getting CUNEs for things like 4-day correction of filing, stalling, intent to file. Oh, that's a tough question to unpack there. Obviously, make sure that the CUNE part, that the and E, it has to be an error. Okay. Um, but yeah, maybe shoot me an email. Um, okay. So yeah, 0% is what the max rating is, Jason. It's just the rating scheduler. If you go into 38 CFR Part 4 and you look at, there's arbitrary minimums and arbitrary maximums. And I don't agree with it, but there's some bigwig somewhere that's what they did. They decided this is going to be what the range is. I mean, that's kind of the thing that we're dealing with right now with the sleep apnea, where they want to rein it in because it's been too good to the veteran community. So many 50% they don't like it, right? Oh, they are doing the CUNEs? Okay, so then that's just oof. Are the CUN okay, hold on. We're gonna skip down here. There's a lot of questions. Um, okay. So are the CUNEs for things that have been denied or things that have been granted? If it's for things that have been denied, that's not a bad thing. If it's for things that have been granted, blood pressure meds, my friend. Blood pressure meds, because it's rarely a good thing when you have a CUNE for something that's been granted, because that means that there was something potentially wrong with how they granted it. It could be a positive thing where they lowballed it, but yeah, it's not necessarily a good thing. If there's a CUNE for something that hasn't been granted, that's typically a good thing that's happening. So yeah, just keep and a question: what if I miss work? But okay, so BDD is a horse of a different color again, right? So if you can just say the economic inadaptability is going to be based upon your statements, not based upon yours is different because you can't like you could even say, look, I'm getting out of the military because of my migraines, and that would count, because you're changing your vocation because of it. Oh gosh. Yes. Douglas, yes. They have to be generic. They're going to be generic. The ILR is going to be a report from the DoD. So it's going to be like just basically just word regurgitation on the screen as to what, like uh, diagnosed with so and so and so and so, chemicals so and so, high likelihood of, moderate exposure type thing. Like they're going to be, the ILR is going to be specific at times and sometimes generic. The Terra Memo is going to be generic with hopefully some specificness. Hold on. It's like somebody will say something that catches my eye that is so weird that no, they don't recognize that alcohol use can cause OSA. No, no, not on earth, not under heaven. No, they don't. They don't consider it at all. Um, some examiners do, and that's who you have to convince, right? Like, it's not the VA that you have to convince. You have to convince the examiner. If this is how the theory that you're doing it is going to go down, you have to convince the examiner. Okay, you can't just the rater's not going to save you on that one because that's a medical conclusion. And the examiner, as long as they checked all the boxes on it, their conclusion could be the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But if they checked all the boxes, I can't question them. Let me see here. Oh, ILR just stands for individual so and so, so and so, and so and so. Hold on. Hold on. Individual longitudinal exposure record. That's what it stands for. Let me I'm going to copy that and I'm going to put it in the chat. That's what it stands for. I mean, it's quite telling, right? I mean, it says everything. How do you get your ILR? You get it from a FOIA request. It's an internal document, guys. It is super hidden behind you're not going to get that. Sometimes you can walk in and go into the public contact building and get it, but rarely. A SOAP note is a type of medical report. It's subjective, objective, subjective symptoms, objective symptoms. I forget what the uh, SOAP note definition. I know what the first two are. It stands for subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. So that's what that stands for. All right, let's go up here and look here. Everybody wanted to talk about the weight gain. Rudy, thank you. Thank you for making me say those words earlier. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I do appreciate it. So, guys, we're about at the 2 hour mark here, 2 hours and 5 minutes. I'm going to go for another 10, and then I'm just going to call it a night. Once again, it's going to be same bat time, same bat channel on Saturday, next Saturday. Do you guys like the 6 o'clock time? I'm going to be doing that. Probably 6 o'clock is better. And we'll go. Yeah, not everybody has an Eiler. Typically, you'll see them in anybody that was served after 1991. Some will have an Eiler. After 2000, many will have an Eiler. After 2015, almost everybody has an Eiler. So I will try for 6 p.m. next time, guys. Let me see here. And I know I didn't get to all your guys' questions. Matt, thank you so much. When claiming IBS as a muck me, do I need an actual diagnosis? No, you don't. You can just talk about it. So you can say whatever it is. So if it's constipation, diarrhea, but the key, okay, is go watch my video. I hate to be like that, but go watch my video about the 38 CFR 3.317. You have to have the 6 months of chronicity. You always want to talk about the symptoms. Like here would be an example. I have alternating constipation, diarrhea with bloating that is painful over the last 6 months. Something like that. That would be a more ideal contention that is claimed, because it number one satisfies all the requirements to get you the exam, because you're saying symptoms which satisfy element 1. You're saying that you want to also say in there that it's due to 38 CFR 3.317, so you can say element 2, and then you also want to say the 6 months of chronicity to satisfy element 3. Had elbow degenerative joint disease diagnosed in service, but claim done within a year of separation was denied, missed CMP. Could this be a CUNE? Technically, okay, so could it be a CUNE? Did you report good cause as to why you so the CUNE part would be why they didn't get you a new exam. And it could be a duty to assist error, which could be a CUNE if it was before 2019. But what I'm going to say is that you should be granted under 38 CFR 3.309A for arthritis as a chronic disease, but the effective date will be it'll honestly be up to the rater. Personally, I'd try to get away with it myself, going back in time. But you would have to open up a CUNE, like have a legitimate CUNE that they should have gotten you a new examination. If it was before 2018, then they could potentially go back. There's a lot of what ifs in there. Okay, Andrew. So don't hold me to any of them because I don't have all the information. Correct. PNT is better than TDIU because you can work. I'm not much of a sports fan, if I want to say. I don't know what this is in reference to. Assessment and plan. See, A's got it down. A's the person. I don't know if they're the man or the the other. But yeah, so and if so, okay, so I'm going to start going into my wrap up thing here. Number one, if you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. Um, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to grow it. The growth is exponential, and it has been truly just shattering my expectations. I appreciate it. I would like to grow big enough to where we can get the message out. I do want to start maybe going on doing collaborations with individuals. But my collaborations, like if I start doing collaborations, they're not going to be. I'm going to put my foot down and say that I don't want to do collaborations with people that want to sell something to you. Okay. If we do collaborations with people, it's going to be to spread the message and spread the word. Okay. I don't. What is your problem, dog? Oh no, bringing me the food bowl. I have forgotten something. But I want to, like, if I collaborate with somebody, because I'm going to be planning on doing that. We're getting large enough to where that's going to potentially be a thing, and my dog's going to just drop the food bowl time and time again until I get over there. So we're almost done. But yeah, if I start doing collaborations with people, that's going to be my that's going to be my boundary. Is that I want to make sure that we we're not selling out. And I don't think that people that do, they that do partnerships with people or do whatever, I don't think that that's selling out. But I do want to keep this as pure as humanly possible to just be putting out information. Okay. That's why some of the videos that I do, I understand that they're not for you, right? Like the spine one. The spine one didn't get very many views. It's because some people aren't going to claim the spine. So I get that. And they don't all have to be bangers. They don't all have to be like 10,000 views. Like, no, I put out the information for the people that need it. Okay. And it's my altruistic thing. I honest to God want to use this to you know, put out information for the people that need it. Update the information for people that need it. Guys, oof, man, you're killing me with this stuff on the people. Like, I don't know. Um, Received 70% service connection for major depressive disorder from incident in 1983. Could OSA be connected as secondary? Yes, it can. Either the medications that you take for MDD can contribute to it. You can have depression that causes you to gain weight. That could be an intermediate step secondary, yes, or it could be just due to some kind of sleep related thing. Moderator. Okay, I know moderator. So moderator is somebody that I take that jests with me. So don't get mad at moderator. I know them personally. But yeah, so I want to, yeah, if you guys could just get people to maybe tune in, do I have a ulterior motive for it? Yes, because I want to spread the message. That's it. But I don't want to I don't know. I also I don't know who, like, I would uh do a collaboration with. It's just something that I expect to happen in the future. Like, I don't know, I might do one with the Civ div, but I kind of said that I wanted to keep it, it's going to be vanilla. It's just him, if so, it's going to be him and I talking, right? Just telling the whatever, needs to come out. So, or I don't know, whomever else. It could be whatever. Um, okay. So yeah, and that's fine. It wouldn't have a bearing on what I said though, BF. So what I said would be actually true. So yes, it could still be OSA still could be secondary to it. Um, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I could do a collaboration with anybody. My goal for the collaborations, guys, if I do them, nobody's reached out to me yet, except for maybe the Civ Div. Um, but the person that I want to make sure, like the thing that I want to make sure is that the message is on point, right? That the veteran community is taking more away from, that it's a positive message, that it's actually, it's not like top 5 things, reasons why, bro. Like I want to do that. Okay. I don't want clickbaity nonsense. And that's probably going to get me out of some collaborations. Like some people might not want that. They might want to do like clickbaity stuff. And I don't know. I don't want that. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys want that? Do you guys want clickbaity stuff? I don't think you do. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't know. So I'm open to collaborations where we just talk. We talk about veterans, whatever. I want to hopefully keep it to, um, like if they want to ask me about Raider stuff, I mean, I'd answer that. If they want to talk to me about, like how things are rated, or I don't want to do predictions too much, like I said beforehand. Yeah, no, I don't want to do clickbaity stuff, right? Like I want to provide receipts to stuff. That's it. You know, which migraine change for the better? The migraine DBQ change. There's not been one in a while. Like, yeah, Veterans Info Tap, like good guy. Like, like Jason, yeah. I mean, he seems like he's got it together. I don't know what I could bring to the table though, to his table. He's got the audience. I'd be nervous, guys, Um, I okay, zombie. That's the kind of thing where I don't know if going to a claims academy would like. I'm not singling them out, but like a VA claims company, I don't know if I want to, because that has an ulterior motive, right? Come on, do it. Kenneth knows what he's talking about. You sit here and you lift the weights. If you're not lifting the weights, then you've got a disability. It's called being not strong. I don't know. Sorry. But yeah, so anything that we can do, I'll run it by the community. So I'll do a post, okay? That's kind of my litmus test. I want to just do a vote on stuff maybe, because to me, this is your guys' channel. This is the light in the darkness. And I want to shine it in the direction that you guys want to do, right? I mean, I'm not going to be a billionaire or anything from this, but I think that, you guys snatch up some crazy subs from Jason. Yes, Flavor, I would. Yes. This is actually the truest statement right here. I this is why I want to do it, is because it's true. One single word, right? The disposition of the Raider, the disposition of the VSR, reading the words, educating you about how the words are reviewed by the staff members. Like this is my ultimate goal. But well, but see, I think that I want to try to bring them to my side. I want to try to raise the bar a little bit, right? Like that's the goal. The goal is to raise the bar so we can all walk across the finish line together, right? So that way we can all get there. And I'm already 15 minutes over my 15 minutes, but you'll get me grandstanding here, guys. And I don't want to be. I don't want to be. You could wave money in front of me. I don't want to be. I don't want to be clickbaity. There's too much of that. Do you know how many times I'll click on something? Even me. I'm like, and I know things, right? And I'm like, oh, wow, click. And I'm like, that didn't tell me a damn thing. That didn't tell me anything. But I don't know. It's something maybe in the future. I don't know. I know that I have talked. Somebody's reached. Oh my gosh. Too soon. Too soon, sir or ma'am. Too soon. Yeah, Combat Craig passed away, zombie. I'm not sure if you knew that or not. I hope that was just an accident. But yeah, they passed away. So God rest their soul. Okay, So that's about all I got for you guys. Yeah, no, I don't. I hope that that was an accident and that wasn't mean spirited, because that's another thing. Like, I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. This is an educational channel, obviously, and we want to be respectful towards each other. That's why, we're I just want to point that out. And that's why GC Jarhead currently is the moderator. I only need one moderator because everybody's awesome here. And I want to make sure that we keep it awesome. Okay. So, and I believe you, Zombie. I believe you 100% that you didn't have any mean spirited thing towards it. But yeah, so I expect everybody. That is one thing I hopefully don't have to say, is I expect everybody to treat everybody with some modicum of respect. um, you know, and that includes towards other content creators. That's why I don't name certain people whenever I have negative opinions of them. I do have some negative opinions of some people or some organizations. I do have some positive opinions of some people and some organizations. And if I say them in a positive way, then that's the positive way. And if I don't talk about them, I don't talk about them, but that is fine. But I'd also like to thank everybody that donated tonight. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate it, though. Next Saturday, same thing. I don't really have a topic yet. If you guys want, I think whenever I post the next video or the next live stream next week, you guys should be able to post comments on there. I hope so. If not, I'll make a post and just say, hey, what do you guys want to talk about next week? And then you guys can kind of vote on it. Okay. Thank you all for taking your precious time and spending it with me. And I appreciate that more than you guys know. But anyway, that's about all I got for you right now. I'll be doing more videos. I think secondary evidence video. It sounds like you guys want that. Maybe a Terra part 3, yes. And then what else was I going to do? I was going to do something else. I was going to do, aggravation. It's about time to get aggravation out the door. I think you guys have seen enough of my videos to be able to at least have a good foundation for it. So anyway, sitting here with all of you guys has been amazing. It's too easy to do it with this group of people. Come on. Sorry. Jeff got me. So yeah, it is clickbaity with you, Arnold. Anyway, have a wonderful night. Raider out.